Hello, hello. Just checking. Am I I hope I'm audible and visible. Um, good evening. Good evening on behalf of Mata Amrita Devi and the entire management at Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham. I thank you all for joining us here today. Before I begin, a short preamble to what this series of webinars are and what we are trying to achieve. Uh, this is part of a series of webinar that intends to discuss behavioral and emotional aspects connected to education and learning. In this particular seminar that we are opening today, I intend to discuss emotional intelligence from a very macro level, and subsequent programs are intended to go into the depth. Going on, um, I have there is a PowerPoint presentation that I'll be using, but I'd request you not to judge me on my PowerPoint skills. Um, I'm using that file just as a sort of a notes kind of a thing, so that I stay the course that we intend to share today. Yeah. So I'll just have the file on screen. Right. I hope this is visible. Yeah. Uh, the set of notes that I'm going to be flashing in front of you is part of a series of the entire program. So there will be aspects, there will be some factors in between that may not be relevant for today's discussion, and we'll just quickly skip through them. Yeah. Uh, so we'll first have a look at why emotional intelligence, why the talk around it. We'll quickly look at what it is, albeit this is already, I think, available in free space. And then we'll see how it impacts our lives and how it manifests in and around in educational institutions and in classrooms. Yeah. Um, I'm pulling out a statement from Aristotle, which is, I think, the oldest that I could find reference to emotional intelligence presently, and it's on your screen. However, this is not just the only way in which we can define or describe emotional intelligence. There are several ways in which it can be, defined. One, just to get a feel of it, one common way is for if you watched a new mother interacting with a child who hasn't developed vocabulary yet, a child of maybe 0 to 6 months, something like that, you will see emotional intelligence at play. Right? So if you the one way of actually defining what it is, you could probably have a look at this. I'll leave this statement on your screen for a few seconds for anyone who wants to absorb it. Right. Thank you. Moving on. There are references of emotional intelligence in all scriptures of all religions. Yeah, each has its moments. Each has its. It is well documented. Definitions of emotional intelligence. I have just pulled out a few from different sources that I collected material from for the subsequent content that I'm going to present in front of you. Couple of authors which I have referred to is Mr. Amit Ray, there's Viktor Frankl, there's Travis Bradbury, and there's Mr. Friedman. There are other sources of other people who have written about emotional intelligence as well. We'll have a look at that also. Yeah. So I'm not going into the depths of these definitions. These are available across the internet. Yeah. Yeah. So as we study emotional intelligence, one of the most common question statements we get is where did it all start from? What's there? How is it structured, etc., etc. See, uh, it's a little difficult to give you a broad structure of emotional intelligence because there are a couple of different theories at play. Some of uh, the uh, the graphic that I've put on your screen now pulls out the main theories of emotional intelligence that exist today. Yeah, they are broadly in three forms. There's the ability models, there are the trait models of emotional intelligence, and then there are the mixed models. Yeah, and then of course you all would have heard of the name Mr. Daniel Goleman. I'll come to that also in a short while. Very quickly, ability models of emotional intelligence talk about building your ability in this regard. Yeah, so it begins with it's a step-by-step process. They look at it in the form of a linear step-by-step process where it's on your screen on your left side, where they believe that you must start first with perceiving and appraising emotion. After that only can you begin to reason with emotions. Then after that only you begin to understand them, and then you go to manage them. So it's in increasing complexity, and that's how the ability model talks about it. Whereas the trait or the characteristic model says that emotional intelligence consists of 4 to 6 attribute or aspects or characteristics. How we build our competence in these characteristics is left to us. One example of a trait model that I've taken talks about these 5 aspects: self awareness, self regulation, empathy, social skills, and motivation. This model says that you can build your competence in any of these things at from any point. It does not necessarily mean you have to be linear. You can build your competence from any one of these. So you can start from any one of these. The mixed models, very quickly, of course, I'm not going to spend too much of time on this. The mixed models, there's the Reuven Barwan model. He was a consultant, and his model is a derivation of all the consulting that he's done for companies in his time. Yeah, he's also published a book which I have put on screen for those who would like to go deep into the Ruan Bhavan model. The book by this gentleman is on your screen as well. His model is as shown. He talks about emotional intelligence and intrapersonal and in interpersonal. In intrapersonal, he talks about stress management, etc. In interpersonal, he talks about the ability to interact with others. He believes that these two together lead to a general upliftment of mood. Therefore, it also helps with effective performance. The various aspects of this model I've also put on your screen. The four cornerstone model by Robert Cooper, uh, also on your screen. It has 4 aspects. There's emotional literacy, there's fitness, there's emotional depth, and there's emotional alchemy. The book that he's authored is also on your screen for those who would like to do more research into this. So I am intentionally going through the existing theories on EI a little quickly because I believe most of this is already available in the public domain for those who have already read up on it, or it's very easily accessible for those who would like to reread and go through this. Um, I'm going to skip this for now. And then there is the Mayer Savory model. Again, I've also included the book that he's published on his name. He talks about a cyclic model of emotional intelligence where he says there's first perception, then there's facilitation. Once you facilitate, you understand it, and then you begin to manage it. Yeah. So this is the Mayer Savory model. also a mixed form of emotional intelligence. And then, of course, finally, this name. Yeah? Emotional intelligence always existed, but when this gentleman first published his book on the same name, Mr. Daniel Goldman, emotional intelligence actually started getting a lot of focus after that. Yeah? Until then, it existed in fragments. When his book was published, it got a lot of focus. His model or his concept of emotional intelligence, and as he sees it, is on your screen. Yeah? He sees it in the form of a matrix. He's got these four aspects, and how these four aspects are linked to each other is depicted in the matrix. There's self awareness, there's self management, there's social awareness, and then there is social skills. I'll leave this on your screen for a few seconds. While we are discussing these theories and concepts on emotional intelligence, I might also add that each one of these concepts is supported by its own instrument, its own questionnaire, which you can take, and then the results of the questionnaire give you an indication of how or where you are with respect to the attributes that that particular concept talks about. So each one of them has their own psychometric instrument. Uh, the details of it are there in the books that I've shown you. So those of you who are interested in doing a little bit of self-assessment, you can explore that as well. Um, these are a couple of common things that you'll find across all of the emotional intelligence theories.
Sir, you are on mute, sir.
Good evening. I apologize. I think for some reason the video didn't come through. But what I was trying to play is in the last few minutes is that uh, I was trying to play the scene from the movie Rangila, where Amir Khan first enters a five-star hotel, and he tries to order food, and how he goes through the motions of that they and how he's completely he doesn't care about the environment that he's in and all, and he's completely mindful in his own ways. Yeah, it was very interesting, which shows how at times, while certain things are functional for us, while it was functional for Amir Khan's character to continue in the way that he normally is in any environment, it may or may not be functional in that particular situation or for people who are around us. Yeah, so that's what I was trying to depict through that video. Let's move on. Uh, I would like to I would like to leave the science behind emotional intelligence for another day. Yeah. While I'll quickly go through these slides that I have in front of me, I'd like to leave this discussion for another day. I'd like to go into more about other aspects of AI today. Yeah. Yes. So with this, what I'm talking about now, I'm actually taking a leaf out of Mr. Daniel Goleman's book, and for the want of picking and choosing, I decided to choose this because this is more popularly and commonly available, so that everyone can also have access to this. So this concept is in continuation of Daniel Goleman's theory on emotional intelligence, and here the four skills that he talks about. First, he says that emotional intelligence begins with self awareness. Self awareness, knowing oneself, knowing us, how we are, how we perceive, how we respond, what are the things that make us light up, and what are the things that put us under the water, so on and so forth. The greatest of faults is to be conscious of none. Yeah. So, emotional intelligence, he believes, Mr. Daniel Goldman, begins from this point. The interplay of the cognitive, behavioral, emotional, and psychological aspects, how each one has an interplay on the other, and the role of emotional intelligence in these aspects. Yeah, being pictorially depicted here on your screen. For those who would like to read more on this, I have also included the source from where I pulled this out. Here's an example that I thought will give us a little more depth into it. For example, let's say I was preparing for this oral presentation that I'm going to do online today. So the situation is doing an oral presentation. Thoughts, maybe I'm thinking about, I'm telling myself that we're, I might make a mistake, I might say something, maybe my face or hair is out of place, something like that. These are the thoughts I can have. The feelings that it generates in me is a feeling of embarrassment. The physical reactions could be me sweating, my heart racing, shallow breath, etc., etc. A behavior could be I then start reading directly from my notes, yeah, rather than trying to interact with the audience. Eventually, the performance is affected because I might not be that effective. Yeah. So here's an example of how self-awareness can manifest in one instance of our daily lives. Improving self-awareness, couple of points I put on your screen. You can have a look. These are very basic, cursory ways, of course. Uh, Improving self awareness requires practice, practice, and practice. Uh, we, I'm happy to discuss this in depth, maybe in subsequent sessions. Self management, using your self awareness, thereby gained in order to manage yourself in the environment that you're in, amongst people, etc., follows from this. This is the second attribute or second skill that I wanted to introduce. When we're looking at managing, we then come out to discuss triggers. Yeah? What are the triggers that are in us? What are the things that make us angry, make us happy, make us sad? What are the? It could be instances, it could be particular people, it could be particular events, it could be something that's happened in the past that is connected to something today. Understanding these emotional triggers then help us, build on this second skill that we're talking about. In continuation, I'm just going to move on. I think one of the aspects that most emotional intelligence practitioners and also spiritual and other practitioners will share with us is the importance of expressing our feelings and emotions at that particular point. However, do be mindful, there are different ways in which these feelings are expressed. They can be passive, they can be assertive, there's aggressive. We usually aim to be as assertive as we feel as we can, but we must be careful. If we are passive, we'll not have the impact that we need. If we are too aggressive, it can also be detrimental to the situation. Right? They say the signs of deterioration are mostly visible in our on the face. If a well practiced somebody who's well practiced in NLP or is well practiced in reading expressions will be able to read most of the signs of deterioration on a person's face. Yeah? More on this maybe on a later session. I just thought I'll just introduce it here today. Mental health restoration. Yes, we'll talk about this maybe in a later session. Aspect number 3, becoming socially aware. Yeah? This is about now that you've got your self awareness, you've got your triggers in place, you now slowly start becoming socially aware. How these things impact people and living beings around you. Yeah. Uh, Becoming socially aware, direct inputs, direct benefits that you feel is one, of course, increased positivity, deeper, longer connects, leading to relationships, better relationships, and of course, conflict management. Yeah, each one of these can be a separate discussion. Benefits of social awareness. I don't think it needs to be highlighted. However, I'll leave this on your screen for a few seconds for those who would like to have a look. Moving on. Yes, I'd highlighted, I touched on this. Most common factor among all theories and concepts of emotional intelligence is empathy. Yeah, uh, yeah, different ways in which empathy is defined and presented. A lot of people have their perspectives. One such perspective is on your screen. Yeah, the ability to see the world from another's point of view and to identify and understand another's situations, feelings, and motives. Moving on. Improving social awareness. These are just some cursory points. Yeah, you can have a look at this. Again, improving social awareness also has the entire gambit of emotional intelligence requires practice, practice, and practice. Moving on. Lastly, relationship management, the fourth skill. Yeah, once you've improved your social awareness, next you intend to build and manage your relationships with others around you. Here's here's a cursory or a very a very macro view of what improving relationship includes. Yeah? It's seeking to build high quality, high trust relationships, trying to discover what role emotions are playing in our interaction with others, ability to sense tension or other emotional reactions in others, being quick to address basic disputes and settle differences of opinions and misunderstandings, so on and so forth. It's not limited to just this, but these are some of the macro level cursory view of improving relationships. Uh, I'm not going to introduce the emotional capability profile here today, because then there are the other aspects that I wanted to share. Emotional capability profile, very simply, is the set of competencies of emotional intelligence that organizations now have started using in order to assess and profile their employees. Yeah, the next couple of notes of mine, next couple of slides, they talk about this aspect. I'm just quickly skipping through. Strategies to manage emotions. Um, I'll just these are some examples. I'll leave it on your screen. Have a look before we move on. All right, I'll actually read it out. See, cognitives. There are, a couple of ways in which you can sort of practice building on, your own emotional intelligence in and around your environment. Cognitive strategies are one way is to start challenging your thoughts. Like for example, at times you're driving on the road, you see an animal, maybe a cow or a dog on the road, suddenly come in between your car. Have a look at the thoughts that come into you and see if you can challenge them in any way, or see if you can let go of some of these thoughts that are not really functional or important at that point of time. Physical strategies, some of them we are already aware: meditation, yoga, guided imagery, breathing regulation, exercise, grounding. Different exercises are present in each one of this. You have access to this, on different websites or even in books. Withdrawal, avoidance, stepping away from the person or situation or activity that is triggering emotions and feelings. Pleasurable activities, humor, hobbies, etc., socializing. Emotional dialogue, you can either call it venting, or you can also call it having a deep conversation with people. Indirect tension relaxants, television, chocolate, coffee, movies, etc., etc. Direct tension relaxant, of course, there's medication. Yeah, some examples of different strategies that are available in order to manage emotions. Discussed. I'm going to skip through this. Here's I'm going to leave this on your screen for a while. It's a broad map of what emotional intelligence is, what it includes, and how it's spread out. Yeah, have a look at this. The aim of putting this in front of you is to sort of give you a bird's eye view, a way of how emotional intelligence flows, what are the different blocks in it, how it impacts us, hoping that it will then give us a ability to give us a connect to see these things in our daily lives as well. Yeah. So that this is sort of a summary in that sense. Uh, Emotional intelligence itself being a very vast subject, it's a real challenge to be able to address everything in a short this span of time. So therefore, uh, you will consciously feel that the session today is very cursory, giving you only just a broad or a macro view. I'm also trying to keep away from visual documents, visual or auditory audio-visual files. For some reason, where the audio or the visual is not coming in today, so I'm intentionally staying away from those. Moving on, yeah, I think the summary that we have presented talks about these things. But then here are certain visible competencies under each one of these aspects. For example, emotional intelligence involves consciousness, clarity of your strengths and limitations, clear vision of future of what it could be a longish future. Also, it can be having a clear vision of the tasks that you intend to accomplish during the day as well. Self-regulation, decision-making, self-motivation, optimism, resilience, all examples. Social awareness, empathy, active listening, assertive communication, again, all examples. Relationship management, rapport, influence, and persuasion, conflict management, again, all examples. Yeah. Yes, of course. A second summary slide, but I'm going to skip this. I'm now going towards education, and I'm looking at education in its entity from its beginning. The reason why I'm looking at education from its beginning is that it'll give you a view. It'll help you see the overlaps. It'll help you see the connection between education and emotional intelligence that much more clearly. Yeah? These are a couple of definitions, a couple of meanings of education from noted personalities across the world that I've put on your screen. I'm sure there are several more. Yeah, I'm sure each one of you, with the areas that you've studied or the areas that you've read through, you have your own, key personalities, your own views and definitions on education. You can have a look at this to see if it adds to it. So, not being partial, but I'm just pulling out one or two from this that I'd like to read. John Dewey, education is all one with growing. It has no end beyond itself. Aristotle, education is the process of training man to fulfill his aim by exercising all faculties to the fullest extent as a member of society. Yeah. Uh, Here, man also includes women. It is training a person. Aristotle, I just took his quote word to word. Yeah. Albert Einstein and his perspective on education. Um, I'm trying to put a view of the purpose of education. I'm trying to present this to you all. I have used two diagrams. The diagram on the right talks about purpose of education more from our what I've been able to find in our scriptures, and the diagram on the left is a sort of a matrix that talks about purpose of education as may be seen in schools and colleges. So the first concept on your right talks about three aspects as the purpose of education. One, to prepare students for civic participation. Two, to prepare students for employment. And three, to enable the pursuit of happiness. On the left, the diagram represents the intrinsic reasons for education and instrumental reasons for education. Intrinsic, why the particular learner is going on the path of education. Instrumental, what he or she intends to do once he has achieved or obtained this education. Then again, on the left and right, you have the individual versus collective. What he or she intends to benefit individually from the education that he's attained, and what benefits are there for the collective, which could be society, country, my community, the area that I live in, anything. Yeah? The ecology of education. I'm going to skip this for today. How is, yeah, this is what I would like to share with you and close today's discussion with. And I'm hoping that this is what will sort of knit the importance of education and learning, education and learning, and how it sort of connects with emotional intelligence today. Yeah. So this is the last aspect of what I would like to share with you before I close. Learning is changing. Yeah, today learning is becoming more student centered. There's a lot of talk about these four aspects. There's personalized learning, there's student owned learning, there's competency based learning, and then there is anytime anywhere learning. The nature of learning becoming anytime and anywhere. I'm trying to depict a sort of a churn where all these four things are going into the mix, and what's emerging is student centered learning. Uh, I'm not discussing this concept at depth today, but I'd like to share the source for those who would like to read more on this. Yeah, these couple of slides or the couple of notes that I'm presenting with you is from the book that is on your screen. The book is about deep learning. It is by an author called Michael Fullan. It talks about the essence and aspects of deep learning in the context of education, not in the context of artificial intelligence. Yeah, he's talking about in the context of education. He talks about deep learning, and he's given some very beautiful concepts that give us an indication of the direction that education is taking today. Yeah, one of the concepts is in front of your screen. I'm going to flip back. This is the concept that is also from the same book. I'm going to go one stage back again. This also, the concept that I just introduced, is from the same book that I have mentioned here. Yeah. So moving forward, he talks about certain traits, certain aspects that are becoming very important in today's IT-enabled world. You will hear this in different forms. You'll hear this spoken about as 21st century skills. You'll hear this as skills for overall well-being. In the book, it's referred to as 6 C's. He talks about creativity and imagination. He talks about character, education. He talks about citizenship. He talks about communication skills, critical thinking, and collaboration. Um, Same thing in a different colored depiction. So I'll just skip. These four things are the same. 6 C's. I'm sorry, same 6 C's again in a different colored depiction. Right. The second aspect that I wanted to talk under the change in learning is the way that the world is changing today. Yeah, today is more of a time for innovation. Yeah, because the era of inventions are near over, and today has become the time of innovation. Just to give you an example, I've put two pictures on the screen: picture of a wheel, which is regarded as an invention, and the picture of a bullock, where the invention has been taken together and put together in such a way where it is it becomes a innovation that addresses a particular need. Yeah. So today is a age of innovation, as the education and learning system today needs to prepare learners for innovation rather than inventions. This is the second aspect that I wanted to present under the change of learning. Transformative landscape, I think this is an extension of what I was just talking a little earlier. Skip this. And here is the third aspect that I wanted to present. So when we conducted a small survey and we asked people what are the skills aspects that are very important to be taught to future ready graduates, we got a huge set of pointers. These pointers were then categorized and again fed in to the same research group, and what emerged were these few highlighted points. Yeah, I'll leave this on your screen. So, as a result of this research, it said that these aspects are really important when we are teaching future ready or when we are preparing future ready graduates. You'd have heard these aspects being mentioned across in education. Now, I'm going to try to rearrange these random aspects in a particular method. Yeah. So I've taken those points, I've rearranged them on my screen, and I'll tell you why I've put it in this particular order. Yeah, so this previous slide, these are the points that we got from the research, and I'm trying to arrange this in a particular way. I'm going to put it like this, and I'm trying to filter them into three blocks. One is knowing aspects, one is doing aspects, and one is being aspects. For example, knowing facts, knowing theories comes under the knowing aspect of learning and education and learning. Doing involves critical thinking, being open minded, being emotionally intelligent, being problem solvers, etc. etc. And then the becoming aspect talks about being principled, being a leader, being creative, being ethical, being professional, etc. Yeah? And I'm going to introduce a small graph into it now. Yeah, the graph talks about on the x-axis. I'm talking about easy to teach versus hard to teach, and on the y-axis, I'm talking about easy to forget or becoming outdated. Yeah, versus hard to forget and lasting a lifetime. The circle, yeah, highlights skills and areas that are both hard to teach and last for a lifetime. Yeah. Moving on, I'm going to stop and pause here. And the reason why I'm pausing here is I believe uh, this, the skills required for future ready graduates and EI, emotional intelligence, that we actually introduced a little while ago, I believe it all knits together, it all gets stitched together very nicely. Yeah. I would like to pause here and and open myself for discussions, which I feel is also will be very interesting. This session that we are doing today is a part of a set of sessions. There are a lot of other, aspects, areas that we intend to cover under this, both for educators, for students alike. There are several areas, topics that under this umbrella we are trying to take on. There are discussions on artificial intelligence, there are discussion on robotics, there are discussions on several other aspects. Appreciative inquiry is also one aspect that is talked about. There's a couple of things which we looked at here. We looked at conflict management, we looked at self awareness, ways in which emotional intelligence impacts, or the ways in which emotional intelligence can be mapped into classrooms, so on and so forth. So this is a part of a series of different aspects. Some of them are going to be online. For those of you who would like to explore conducting, a more interactive and a visually um, spiced program on ground. We will be more than happy to explore that as well. But I must pause now. Yeah, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try to run another video which sort of hits or gives us a feeling of what emotional intelligence is. I'd request my co-hosts, in case the video doesn't play, just give me an indication, yeah, and we'll stop it. So I'm going to reshare my. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to reshare my screen, and I'm going to open and see if the video plays. Thank you. Thank you. Stopping the video, going back to um, here we are. I hope that video was visible. In case it was not visible, the source is it is from a series that Gillette is doing, and it talks about you can access this video very easily. It is it is a series on you know emotions that Gillette is doing. It's actually an advertisement. It's about it's about that. Yeah. So those of you who I don't know whether it was audible and visible. If it didn't come through and you'd like to enjoy it, that's where it's taken from. I think it's there. It's there in YouTube as well. Yeah. I hope we've been able to add value for all those present here. Thank you so much for being here. We do apologize. We couldn't, make the videos accessible today, but that's an input that we'll work on. We'll ensure that in subsequent sessions, it's not going to be. It's going to include these aspects as well. I'd like to pause and take on any questions that we can. I'm afraid emotional intelligence, the way it is, it's a little difficult to actually present the gambit over a over a online video. We don't feel the ability to connect with it. Yeah. Um, I'd like to also leave you with a couple of more sources of videos that if you'd like to use this during your time. Yeah. I'm reading out a couple of sources, a couple of movies that depict emotional intelligence very nicely. I remember we used to use the Bhag Milkha Bhag movie, where it talks about Milkha Singh's life. They've got beautiful scenes in it. There is another movie which has Amir Khan and Alia Bhatt. This is called Dear Zindagi. That also has beautiful interactions between a learner and a learnee, and it has beautiful interactions like that. Those if you're interested, you'll find a lot of video clippings. Another example of the movie is Munna Bhai MBBS, where he talks about Jadoo Ki Jappi. That's also a fantastic example of emotional intelligence at play. Yeah? I'm going to stop here with that. I'm going to thank you all for being with us. I'm bringing my focus towards the chat box to see if there is anything that I can add value to before we close today. I'm going bottom up, so please forgive me if I've missed earlier chats. Yeah, I see a question which says, "How does one deal with and evade provocations and emotional abuse caused by people, someone who is close to you?" Okay, what if we are well in control yet find someone in a position of authority being critical? Thank you so much. Why do I feel? Why do I feel people holding a strange awe for manipulators? Thank you. Yes, very very interesting. My God, there are. I see a lot of questions. I see a lot of inputs also about the audio not working. I apologize. We will ensure that the audio is up and running when we conduct the subsequent programs. I see a few questions. I wish I could address them. I do not want to keep the audience sitting for too long. We promised we'll close at 5. My deepest apologies, but these questions will be recorded and we will endeavor to build our subsequent programs around these aspects, around these areas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see a lot of triggers about privacy issues, about how teachers and parents can build around privacy issues. I see a lot of triggers about different aspects of emotional intelligence and a little more in-depth discussion, etc. Yes, we will endeavor, though there's a lot on the chat box, I'm not able to read all of them. We will endeavor to include all this that you're putting into your chat boxes in subsequent sessions. I thank you so much for taking the time out today again on behalf of Mata Amritanandamai Devi and the entire management at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. I must thank you all. It is an endeavor by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham to highlight, bring about, and share as much material as possible on existing challenges that you face. Towards this, I would request our contact lines are open. If there are more aspects that you'd like included, please do share it with us. In subsequent programs, we will endeavor to take on questions as well. Yeah, and we'll try to address them as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good evening.